Welcome back, my friends. My name is Eric. This is Rome, and that's Buddha. And Buddha and I have some thoughts, although apparently the camera doesn't care about Buddha. Well, let's fix that. Hold on. We go to the Insta360, such as it is, and move it over here, and then we hit preset. Now, didn't like it. Oh, we just do this. Camera rotate back, or we'll be happy with that. We'll just turn the whole monitor. That's our clue. I got some thoughts about MechWarrior 5 clans. Now we've seen the credits roll and Buddha roll. Look at all that work, and then he runs away. All that work, and he runs away. We've got toys on the floor. That's the problem. He's got too many toys. The stated goal of MechWarrior 5 clans was to make a narrative story-based game in the MechWarrior universe. Job done. They did that. They did a very good job of that as far as I'm concerned. Whether that was the best game that they could have made or not, well, that's a different discussion. But the game they intended to make, they made. And I think they did a very good job. They definitely stepped up their writing. They stepped up the voice acting. I would say generally across the board, the voice acting is much better. There were no characters in this one that I went, oh, that's terrible. In fact, I thought all the voice acting was really good. Whereas, as we know in the first game, some characters specifically and some areas of the game are not well done. And that just is part of the charm, I guess, of the game, if you want to say that. But they definitely, for a narrative game, they stepped up those portions which were essential to the narrative. Which is, well, the narrative. And they did a great job of that. The combat itself was very well done. There were some nice improvements to the UI. I wish the battle map would have been used a little bit more. I wish the battle map was important. You don't really need to use the battle map the entire game. I think it's beautiful. I think they did a great job with it. But they made a great toy that's not particularly useful in the game. It'd be better if, like, when you went to the map, it gave you a quick pause, and then you could move stuff around that way, more RTS style, rather than everything continuing to happen. Because it's so zoomed in, there's no real way to get any sort of situational awareness from the map. Right? It's just too zoomed in, and it's too limited in how far you can move it. So the map's beautiful, but useless, as far as I can tell. Maybe that'll change, as the game progresses, as they come out with DLCs. It does very, very strongly hint at the end that there will be some DLCs coming and that there'll be some additional game content at some point. The mechs felt good. I was happy with them. Your options obviously are much limited because you are a clanner. And the clanners will say that's fine. You have all the omnipods. You can change whatever you want. But realistically, in Battletech, original actual tabletop rules Battletech, you can change anything you want, right? You put whatever you want wherever. There's no hard points or nothing. Ultimate freedom with every mech. The difference is going to be in what kind of your mech perks are and your form factor and some other stuff that decides that. But oftentimes, really, within Battletech, the mech you choose is more or less cosmetic beyond its weight, right? Anyway, so I felt a little limited in that, but there's not that many missions, so it's not really that big a deal. And because of the experience system they use within the mechs, you want to use the mechs routinely anyway, so that you can, in fact, get all of the so you can get the perks and the benefits, right? If there was more missions in there, it would be a bigger issue. But for the length of it, the number of mechs were fine. The customization was very good. I don't hate the Omnipod system of swapping stuff out. When you do that, but then you also say, well, that's just declaring your hard points. Well, realistically, it's a way to kind of give you a little bit of freedom without giving you the freedom of original Battletech, which was hard point free. All that mattered were the number of critical slots. But whatever. So that's a Battletech complaint, not so much a MechWarrior 5 complaint. And to be fair, I don't like clans. I think clans destroyed the balance of the game. I think they destroyed BattleTech as a serious tabletop strategy game or tactics game. In my opinion, it was a huge power creep within the game and inflation that was impossible to balance. It's like if you were playing Warhammer 40K and it was all about Imperial Guard, and all of a sudden they brought in Space Marines, but your points were on a model by model basis. And all of a sudden one Space Marine will crush, an entire unit of Guard. That's essentially what clans did. The storyline for the clans was kind of bullshit. They started with Kerensky leaving. They knew what they wanted to come back. And the fact that his stated goals leaving and what actually happened bear zero resemblance to each other is a problem with the original storyline. The original BattleTech game developers and tabletop game developers and storyline guys. It makes no sense at all. And so any sort of clan game is always going to leave me wanting a little bit more, because I just don't think it's that good. The other thing is, obviously, you're playing the bad guys, which I don't think was a bad choice, actually. I think it was a good choice for this game, because it allows you to have some sort of conflict within you between the clans versus the inner sphere. If you're with one of the less batty clans, they're all batty to an extent, but those that are less extreme, then it makes it easier, or makes it harder for a character within that clan, within that storyline, to reasonably go, well, maybe I'm not on the side of good. Maybe I'm not on the side of history. Maybe I'm doing something wrong here. By making it the Smoke Jaguars, they make that inner conflict really easy to do. Now, as far as the characters themselves, I thought generally they were pretty good. I don't think Jaden is a character that would ever choose to leave the clans, though. I think he's a yes man who's in denial. He's the person that never wants to make waves. He'll do what is told. He might grumble about it under his breath, but he's never going to stand up to anyone. Within the context of the game, he stood up once and got his teeth kicked in, or more accurately, he got Mia's teeth kicked in. And that was it. That was the end of his struggle within as character as written. So it was done, but that character wasn't given enough inner strength to actually make the decision to leave the clans and go intersphere with Wolf's Dragoon. It just wasn't. So that's my one problem with the writing, I suppose. Other than that, it's fine. I wouldn't mind some more branching story choices. But again, they're trying to stick pretty close to the lore. And they hit some big lore points. They really, really did. Obviously, we've got the massacre at Edo. We've got the ramming of the jump ship, right? Which kills the Ilkhan. Is that the top title? But kills the leader and causes them to retreat to go into their darkness retreat for a year. I thought they did a good job of hitting the high points of the clan invasion. But because of that meant there were limited options with you. There wasn't going to be any branching story streams that led to different things. And maybe that's how they should have done mechs. Rather than a technology research, maybe it would have been different options. You have a choice to whether you're going to go recon or be the main hammer in a fight. And what is your role? And that determines what mechs you get access to as the game goes by. Something along those lines. Again, it's a narrative storyline. They weren't meant to be an open sandbox. And so within the stated parameters of the developer and the game they intended to make, they did a very good job. It's just not a game style that I particularly love. I had a great time playing through it once. I probably will go through and play the other branching storyline just to see where it goes. But I'm not going to spend days or hours replaying this or redoing all of the Simpod stuff to try to max those out. I just don't care. So for me, limited replayability. Very well done for one playthrough. Not a huge fan of clans. Would like to have seen the way mech access was instituted a little differently. Again, maybe with some sort of branching storylines rather than just you purchase it and you have unlimited funds. But all in all, a good time. If you are a clanner at heart, if you are a dirty clanner, then I think this is a must buy. If you are an inner sphere guy, if you like narrative games, then this is still good. If you're not a huge narrative run down the rails type of person, where you're just essentially playing a comic book, right? Where you don't have any choices. You're just watching the cutscenes roll, and you get a little bit of action in between. But if you don't do the action like they want you to do the action, it's game over. Then this one's probably one you can pass. It really, it's not that I'm not saying buy it or don't buy it because it's a good game or a bad game. I think it's a good game within the narrow confines of what the developers intended to do. If that's not your game, though, I don't believe there's enough there to make it a must buy for other fans of the franchise. That makes sense. So those are my thoughts. I had a good time. I hope you had a good time watching. We'll see you next time. Cheers.